Good all. So shall we start now?
Yeah, record.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So we thought of adding a little bit more session. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute. Okay, so we thought of having an add-on session to the previous module, because there are a few aspects which I want to use to connect to what we did in the quantum leap and also in the previous one, which is primarily looking at our own self. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the theme I've taken here is unearthing hidden profitability drivers to achieve quantum leap. So the agenda I have is 4 points. We will start with what we talked about in the case of recap of the 3 eyes of Buddha, which we used as a connecting point between protect the core and look beyond the core and expand beyond the core. So how do we look at operational excellence's journey? I won't take more than 2 minutes in that particular part because we already discussed it. I'm using it only to connect it. Then we move on to what we call as cost excellence, the perspective of cost excellence, the 3 levels of addressing cost, and what are the critical drivers of cost. We move on to the concept of release of capacity. This aspect also I talked about in the second module when we talked about how do you prepare yourself for the quantum leap in terms of creating capacity. It will also be a recap, but slight difference in the recap is going to I'll be extending beyond what we talked at that time. And finally, looking at 9 impact areas of profitability. I'm calling it as S3, C3, and I3. This is not coach numbers in the train. We will see what it is as we go further. So 3 A's of Buddha, if you remember, if you recap, we talked about the 3 levels of maintain what you do, incrementally improve what you do, and breakthrough as the 3 levels of any journey of excellence. The first 2 levels is primarily protecting the core, and the third level is looking beyond your current capabilities, which is primarily quantum leap. So you want to go for a quantum leap, at times you have to close your eyes on this improvement in your current reality and look beyond that to jump. This is what we discussed in the first module when we talked about protect the core and look beyond the core for beyond your horizons. So we are going to connect it to profitability in another few minutes. So what do you mean by cost excellence in this context? So for this, let us look at 3 dimensions here. The first dimension is going to be how do we perceive cost and how do we look at cost? There are 3 ways we look at cost. So you take any organization, if it is in a monopoly situation or it is in the early days of its existence, they tend to look at cost to be reimbursed by the marketplace. Whatever cost we incur, we add a profit and say this is my selling price. This used to be a situation for many organizations. It is a situation for some organizations even today. For example, Bosch, Michael Bosch, when they look at their fuel injection pumps, they're still in this stage. There are some products of your medical equipments, Siemens or Johnson & Johnson or Roche, they are in this stage. So my whole focus is whatever cost I incur, I will add a profit and charge my customer. Customer has got no other option than to buy it from me. This situation, I call it as a blessing of the customer. Over a period of time, we not only shift our cost to our customer, we shift our inefficiency also to the customer. Customer has got no other option than to buy it from me. For example, HMT was the only company selling watches in India. Otherwise, you had to buy Seiko watch or Casio watch. Then Titan came in. So when Titan came in, they didn't come up with a very high priced watch, a reasonably priced watch. So till that time, HMT was ruling the roost. So this situation is a blessing of the customer. Cost reimbursement is a focus. But over a period of time, I could not really do much about it. So my selling price keeps coming down. It comes down primarily because competition intensifies. And this cost has a tendency to go up. So why the cost goes up? Maybe you can type it down in your chat box. Why do you think the cost goes up? Why cost goes up? You can keep chatting in the chat box. Why do you think the cost goes up? Now, why overhead goes up? Why the increase in overhead happens? Why does it happen? What causes it? Inflation, beautiful. Then wages, material costs, exchange rate fluctuation, very good. Raw material, labor costs goes up. Why do they go up? Increase in salary, power costs and raw materials, employee costs. Why does it go up? My question is, Ramesh, why does it go up? Inflation is one reason I got, but why cost goes up? Other than inflation? Is it the only reason why cost goes up? Demand and supply mismatch, demand and supply inefficiencies, beautiful. I like this inefficiencies. Supply and demand inefficiency. Cost of quality goes up. Ravi, when you say cost of quality goes up, is it because you want to give a superior quality, you have to incur more cost? Or the quality comes down, so the cost is going up? What is the reason? Ravi, you can open up and speak.
Yes, sir. It is both way. One is on the, you need to premium, you have to improve your quality. So you invest in a lot of equipments and all those things. The other thing is it can also have the other way when due to the legacy, if you get into the old processes, not updating the current technology, then you have a lot of rejections and thereby increase cost.
New investment technology to update. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
See, if let us think a little bit more carefully. If cost goes up because of inflation, what is true for you is also true for the competition. Am I correct? Is it not? If cost goes up because of inflation, if you and competition both are impacted in the same way, after some time you will pass it through to the customer. Is it not? So if cost going up because of inflation is not a problem, but cost going up because of inflation, you handle it differently, competition is handling it differently, then there is a problem. Or in other words, cost going up because of factors beyond my influence and control is not a problem, so long as it hits everybody in the similar way. But if cost goes up because of factors which I am handling different, my competition is handling it different because of our own efficiency or inefficiencies, then it is a problem. If there's no competition because of monopoly, Balaji, but when the competition goes up, naturally, you have to spend more money to market the product. Am I correct? Or if cost goes up because you want to increase the quality of the product, customer may be willing to pay a premium also for that. So if cost goes up because of factors beyond your control, or cost goes up because of your own decision, which is favorably looked at by the customer, then it is not a problem. But the problem arises when cost goes up because of your own inefficiency. We cannot pass it through to the customer. Whatever be it, my profit becomes an extremely small P. So this situation, I call it as a curse of competition and our own inefficiency. After some time, what happens is my selling price keeps coming down. Am I correct? Okay, let us think a bit further. Vedant, you are from Tata Motors, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Vedant?
Yes, sir.
Who is the competition for Tata Motors?
Suzuki, Mahindra.
Suzuki, Mahindra. Okay.
Yeah.
Is Tata Motors a passenger vehicle you work, or you work in commercial vehicle?
I work in commercial vehicles.
Commercial vehicle. Is the trucks of Tata Motors, is it competing with Tiago?
No.
No. Okay. Vetrivel, you are from which company?
Titan Jewelry, sir.
Titan Jewelry. Okay. Who is your competition?
Unorganized sector. All are my competitors, not organized
All your
sectors.
competition. Not organized sectors. Why Kalyan Jewelry is not a competition for you?
They are playing very little zonals only.
Okay. Is your watch division competing with you?
No, sir.
No? Are you sure about that?
Definitely, sir. Their product is entirely different.
Entirely different. They don't compete with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Gopalakrishnan.
Malabar is competitor for Tanishq.
Malabar is competition. Okay. Gopal.
Yes, Professor.
Yeah. So your product, mosquito repellent, the competition is all out. Am I correct?
All, yeah.
Okay. Is it competing with your wet wipes?
No.
No. Why am I asking this nonsensical question to everybody? A question like, he's, okay, Balaji worked in L&T. L&T, Balaji said in the second contract, Balaji was telling We were making what you call soda water bottle cap, and we also make your MCB. Balaji, is this MCB competing with soda water bottle cap?
Rounds.
No.
Okay, now I am telling it is competing. I am telling Wet Wipes is competing with what do you call mosquito repellent. Titan Washes is competing with Titan Jewelry.
As an independent profit center, they compete.
Exactly. If you have $1 million, where will you put the money? Infosys is competing with Reliance Industries. I was going to meet a friend of mine in LA in Airtel somewhere in 97, 98. At that time, we didn't have DMAT and all. He was vigorously filling out the application form for what we call public issue. Airtel was coming with public issue at that time. So I was thinking he's filling up the application form for Airtel. Actually, he's filling up the application form for Reliance. I think even Mr. Mittal will be filling it up for Reliance only. For example, Gopal Krishnan and I went to Argentina and Chile. So in Argentina, we were telling them, hey, your business is worthwhile. Any product you are introducing is worthwhile, provided it's generating a profit of 25-30%, 50-60% gross profit. We crossed the Andes and we went to other division, which is in Chile. There I told them, hey, your business is profitable, provided your product should generate at least 15%, at least 30%. I just crossed the Andes, I changed my mind. Why?
Market situation.
Inflation.
Competition may be entirely different.
Inflation.
Not only that,
Also,
Betty, inflation is totally different. Inflation Argentina is about 25-30%.
Yeah.
Whereas
Stability.
inflation in Chile is 2%. Stability is very high in Chile. But if I am Godrej, I am going to put in the money. I got a choice to put the money in Chile or in Argentina. So Chile and Argentina is competing with each other. So in other words, how do we look at therefore cost? Unless I promise a profit, I am not allowed to do business. And therefore the C has to be looked at as an allowable cost. So how do I look at cost when I'm looking at a quantum leap context? Is when I am selling product, my customer is willing to pay X. Unless I promise a profit, I'm not allowed to do business. And therefore the C has to be looked at as an allowable cost. Today I was in a company which is making fertilizers. Yesterday, today, tomorrow also I'm going to be there in that company. And this company is coming up with products which are absolutely going to be unique products. They come up with a product, very interesting product. This product is a small pouch. Okay, 100 grams pouch. It is like a tea bag. You put the tea bag into your water of, let us say, 150 liters of water. You can spray it in 1 acre land. I repeat, you can spray it in 1 acre land. If you do that, the nutrients are so effective that the yield can actually go up at least by 20%. We asked them, what is the price of the product? He said, sir, 24 rupees, sir, reasonably priced. I said, unreasonably priced. How can it be 24 rupees? It should be 240 rupees.
Yes.
No, sir, our cost is only 5 rupees for this. 24 itself is too bad. You should never look at price from the prism of cost. Cost cannot tell you what price you should charge. You cannot afford to charge.
Repeat, Hari. You are
We
right.
were working with Gopal on a product. Yeah,
Hari.
sorry. Cost cannot tell you what price you should charge. Sorry. See,
Can you
we
repeat
were-
the last 2 minutes? Can you repeat it because it was
Yeah,
broken.
sure. See, the product is actually 24 rupees. You mix it with the water. You just put that bag in the water, that also dissolves. 150 liters of water, you can spray it to 1 full acre. The yield can go up by 20% because of the nutrients in that. And these fellows are priced at 24 rupees. I said, I have you missed a zero on this? It should be 240. I said, no, our cost is only 5 rupees. How can I charge 240? I gave an example from Godrej Consumer Products. We said, we added a nozzle for an aerosol can. The nozzle cost is not even 10 paise. I think Gopal only sourced it. Maybe my price, cost I'm telling maybe wrong, Gopal. Okay, 10 paise. But we priced it 10 rupees more because it's giving a higher value proposition. Selling price, if I start looking at selling price from a cost perspective, I'm actually missing a big opportunity for creating value for not only for the customer, even for my investor. If I go and tell the farmer, this is 24 rupees, put it in the what you call 1 acre, he will tell me how can it help? You tell it is 240, he will definitely buy it. How many times we miss an opportunity for selling a product at a higher price? It's not cheating, friends. You are making the customer pay for the value what he is getting out of it. So selling price, it has got only one relationship with cost, which is primarily cost tells what is a floor. It cannot tell what is a cap. Profit, unless you are giving a profit, you're not supposed to do business. So S minus P becomes C. So how do I look at cost? If I'm looking at a growth mindset is, cost is an allowable cost within the band of SN. Let us go further. How do we address cost? Typically, we address cost in 3 ways. The first way we address cost is, please look at the animation carefully, friends. The first way we address cost. Yes, Balaji, absolutely. New age business, especially service, are priced based on savings or earnings, which is very important. You have to look at what the customer gets out of it. Okay. In the second stage, S minus C is equal to P, I start looking at cost. Okay, there is one Kabir Doha. Those who don't know Hindi, I will translate in English later, which goes like this: Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. Jo sukh mein sumiran kare, dukh kahe ko hai. Meaning, if you are feeling very bad, you think about God. When you're doing very well, you never think about God. When you're doing very well, you think about God. Do you ever get into a problem of sadness at all? Never. Loss mein cost cutting sab kare, profit mein kare na koi. Jo profit mein cost cutting kare, loss kahe ko hai. The point I'm trying to make here is that start thinking about cost when you're doing well. But normally, we look at cost when you're doing badly. We think about weight reduction when the weight goes up, not when the weight is not up. So the point here is therefore, how do we address cost scientifically? There are 3 ways we address cost scientifically. The first way, please look at the animation carefully, is by maintain what you do, which is cost control. Cost control is conformance to budget. Cost control cannot increase your profit. Cost control will help you to sustain the profit or sustain the loss what you plan. Cost control is equal to maintain what you do. Cost reduction is incrementally improving, which is primarily all your initiatives you take, incrementally improve your cost structure. Negotiate kar lo, reduce the cost. Or try to do some yield losses, improvement, reduce the cost. You try to improve the labor efficiency, improve the cost. So within the existing constraint, you are trying to reduce the cost. So these 2 are primarily protect your core status. To protect your core effectively, it is important we should have a good cost control system and a good cost reduction system. As we discussed earlier, control and reduction should work together. It is not independent. But if you want to look at cost for a breakthrough mindset, you should look at cost management. Cost management should look at cost as any expenditure that adds value to customer is cost, otherwise it is waste. Therefore, how do I look at cost in a growth context? Is look at cost with a cost management perspective. Cost management includes cost reduction and control, but goes beyond it of looking beyond your core. So therefore, to look at cost, how do we look at cost in that context? What drives cost? So you please tell me, think and tell me, you can type down the answers. What according to you drives cost? What factors causes cost? You can keep typing down. What factors causes cost? You can type down. What according to you triggers cost? Competition, okay. Working capital, okay. Technology, okay. Raw material cost, technology, quality, beautiful. Okay, labor, special functions, marketing expenses. Okay, why do you incur marketing expense, Ramesh?
So in case of B2C products, yeah, like
to create a market, you have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because there is a market requirement. Okay.
Yes.
Value addition in product. inventory, overheads, raw material, labor overheads. See, these are all cost elements. Lavanya, they are all cost elements. What Pushparaj is giving a very interesting perspective. New product development causes cost. Pushparaj, can you elaborate it?
Hello, yes, sir.
Yeah, Pushparaj, please go ahead.
Because now, for example, I'm at production shop, sir. Actually, currently we because starting of this year we have some regular calibers.
Okay.
Independently, if our senior team is asking to the customer for export the components.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the new process to us. For export the new components, we need to develop some
New process.
new process establishment, and then
Which
quality
is going to
parameters,
cost you. Which is going to
machines.
cost you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us look at very carefully. In my opinion, there are 4 reasons why cost is cost. The first reason, which many of you have talked about, is what I call as external factors, external drivers of cost. External drivers of cost, there are 11 external drivers. Hey, what is the specific number I am giving? 11 external drivers. What is that 11 external drivers? From where this 11 comes? Anybody? I'm telling 11 external drivers. It is 6 plus 5. I'll give a clue also. It is 6 plus 5. 6 plus 5. What is that? 6 plus 5.
Sorry, is it demand and
Okay. Not 5W. 6. The first 6 is pestle. Political, environmental, societal, technological, economic, and legal. Cost is triggered by these 6 factors, which are essentially impacts all the competitors almost identically. And Balaji adds the other 5. N Balaji adds another 5. The other 5 are 5 forces. So pestle is more macro, 5 forces are more micro, which is firm to firm. The 5 forces are, what are they, Balaji? Very quickly, you can tell me that. What are the 5 forces?
It is a competition, external
Okay.
environment, external
Not
environment.
exactly external, it's more specific. Buyer's power, seller's power, right? Internal rivalry, threat of new entrant, and substitute.
Sure. Okay.
So if you look at these 5 are specific to a firm, whereas pestle is specific for the industry. But it may hit different firms in different ways, depending upon how do you handle it. So if factors are driven by external factors, the action has to be taken at the topmost management. This is essentially cost management is required for external factor understanding. This is where merger acquisition, strategic sourcing, hedging. Okay, all these factors is what you undertake for addressing pestle factors and 5 forces. You think about it, whatever you can think of can fall under these 11 factors. These 11 factors make you incur costs. For example, my competition is intensified, my advertisement goes up. My competition is changing the rules of the game. I have to change the rule of the game. Am I correct? So, pestle, political, environmental, societal, technological, economic, legal, 5 forces, internal rivalry of the existing firms, Titan competing with HMT, threat of new entrants, Titan competing with Nokia, with another new watchmaker, supplier power, Titan supplier becoming more powerful, buyer's power, buyer has got more options, substitute, Titan watch is replaced by mobile phone. Am I correct, Sadiq?
Yes, sir. Yes, you're right.
Watch is replaced by mobile phone. So typically my competition is, for Asian Paints competition is primarily green laminates, Saint-Gobain. Am I correct? Marshall wallpaper. So my 5 forces come and hit me in multiple directions. Then the second major driver is what I call as design drivers. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on design drivers, but what kind of design I'm talking about? There are 4 designs I'm talking about here. Friends, note one thing, I'm not giving etc. anywhere. I'm giving finite numbers. There are 4 design drivers. Number 1, product design. More than 90% of the product cost is committed by the time the design is complete. Any amount of cost reduction you do after the design is complete is more like catching the bull by the tail. The biggest causes of cost is design team. Design causes cost, design causes value. Second design is process design. AG Balaji has worked extensively in power plant. The power plant design, the moment the design is committed, your cost is committed. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Process design, because any amount of cost reduction you do after the design is complete is more like catching the bull by the tail. The third is supply chain design. And there is a 4th design, the most hidden driver of cost. Can you think and tell me what is that? There's a 4th driver of cost, which is the design, 4th design. What is that 4th design? Anybody? And many of you suffer that in your companies.
People.
Okay. People behave in what way? What drives the people to behave in a particular way?
Now, what we select, whom to be doing the job, the right person for the right job.
Beautiful, beautiful. So what determines that? What design determines that?
Competence.
What design?
Organization structure design.
Okay, right.
How many times you got frustrated? Oh, I'm not getting this at all, yaar. I'm not getting this through. This approval, I have to wait for nearly 15 months. Am I correct? The most critical driver of cost, the most underestimated driver of cost is this organization structure design. In fact, in Quantum Leap, these 4 play a phenomenal role, friends. If you want to really look at Quantum Leap in the real sense, these are the 4 drivers you have to attack very well, use very well, because design drivers are used to address external drivers. I repeat, design drivers are used to address external drivers. Are you getting the point? There is an excess duty change. A less than 4 meter length car vehicle is going to have lesser excess duty. Immediately you come up with a compact sedan. Am I correct? Sadiq, why did you open a what do you call factory in Sikkim?
Excess duty benefit.
Which is primarily a supply chain design, which is used to what do you call use to take the advantage of a legal factor. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Makes sense. So effectively, you are using this 4 to take action on the other 11. Think about carefully. This has to be in sync with those 11. The third driver is operational drivers. And unfortunately, most of the formal cost analysis in organization addresses only the operational drivers. I repeat, most of the operational initiatives, most of the cost reduction initiatives you do in companies address only the operational drivers. Unfortunately, it is more like catching the bull by the tail. There are 3 operational drivers: Muda, Mura, and Muri. Muda is variability, Muri is strain. Of these 3, Mura is the mother of Muda and Muri. Variability, I'm making a statement, think about very carefully. Variability is a root cause of 3 major inefficiencies: inventory, capacity, and time. Think carefully. Variability is a root cause of inventory. Why do you have inventory? I'm not sure how the demand is going to move. I'm not sure when the machine will break down. I'm not sure when the customer will change his mind. I'm not sure whether the material is available or not available. variability, you build inventory. Or I build capacity. I'm not sure about the workflow, so add a few more people. Keep a little bit higher capacity, so that we can take care of any kind of fluctuation. We do that. Do we do that? Hey, are you getting my point?
Yes.
Or time. Oh, no, I can't add capacity. I can't add this. For example, suppose I ask you, hey, when you can give this report, yeah, sir, I will give it in 5 days' time. You know very well it doesn't take more than 2 hours. Am I correct? So when there is a variability, we add time. Please think, friends, very carefully. The way we react to variability is only in these 3 ways. Either we add inventory, or we add capacity, or we add time. Note one thing very carefully. I've consciously not used the word etc. anywhere. Am I correct? And design drivers, to a great extent, trigger operational drivers. I repeat, design drivers trigger operational drivers. For example, my organization structure defines that there is one person responsible for supply chain or responsible for dispatches. I have a performance metric for him. And that performance metric is going to be to ensure that he is delivering, he is reducing the transportation cost. He will wait for accumulating the stock before he moves the material. Am I correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Muda is triggered, waste is triggered by organization structure.
Repeat, Hari.
I am having my facility in Sikkim. Yeah. You accumulate your stock, so you accumulate your lot so that you can create a full truckload before you dispatch the truck to a customer. So you move some material late, you move some material earlier, you some material just in time. So your decision to move that material is triggered by your organization structure and your KPI. So Muda is triggered by your structure. I am having my facility in Batti. Therefore, I make only one operation in Batti and bring the material back. I have to do an unnecessary transportation so that I can take advantage of this particular supply chain, which is created to address a legal complication. So therefore, if you look at of these 3 drivers, the most critical and the most underestimated driver is design driver. And the design driver is the most critical driver for taking care of quantum leap. Any questions? Any questions? We are exactly halfway through. Any questions? You can add any point also if you want to add, please add. Yeah, Balaji, please go ahead.
It's very difficult to have control on the design drivers because you are going to plan it based on the existing environment. So the nimbleness availability for change is going to be very limited.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So therefore, what is it? You use a very interesting word, Balaji, which is nimbleness. Am I correct?
Yes.
That means the nimbleness can come in my design driver, through my design driver, provided the design itself is nimble.
Yes.
Am I correct? I'll come to that in another few minutes. Point is extremely well taken. The flexibility in your design is extremely critical. Let us take the case of something like, let us take the case of Titan watch, or let us take the case of Sanjay Plastics, plastic components, what they're making, injection molded components. You take the case of what you call Tanishq jewelry. You take the case of an automobile. If you really think about gravy is constant, topping is different. Am I correct? Hey, are you getting my point? What I mean here?
Come again for a minute because we lost you in one.
Gravy is constant, topping is different.
Actually, we have one problem, Hari. Your voice is going in and out.
Yeah, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Give me. Yeah, sorry, Balaji. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
Because the internet is getting used by 2 other people. So I have to go and tell them to stop it. Capacity constraint. Late night. Okay, so sorry. If you look at most of the organization, you're trying to move towards a concept of keeping your components constant or standard and customizing your deliverable. Keep the gravy constant, topping is different. Whether it is a watch design or a jewelry design or an eyewear design or a plant design or an IT project or an injection molded part, you're trying to create some stability at your process and component level. Not only manufacturing, I'm talking about processes also. The nimbleness which Balaji you talked about is what we need to look at when we go design driver. I'll come to that in a few minutes. But for all these three, there is a mother. That mother, yeah, there is a mother for even design. That mother is called attitude. Attitude of the decision maker results in how these drivers are handled. For example, again, today we were talking about the company which is into fertilizer. They do a lot of importing.
So still we have the same topic.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
I'm
Sir,
sorry,
it's
I'm sorry.
same problem. It's actually dragging. Yeah.
Sorry. Attitude is the fourth and the major driver which triggers the other three drivers also. The attitude of the decision maker determines how these external factors or drivers are addressed, how the design drivers are addressed, how the operational drivers are addressed. Let us look at a very simple example. I am in this company, fertilizer company today, and they were having a lot of exposure, foreign currency exposure. Wait, Lavanya is asking a question. I'll come to the next few minutes. Okay. I'll address this question later, Lavanya.
Okay.
So if you look at, so the kind of what you call, they were refusing to take a hedge because they say, no, sir, our top management is uncomfortable taking a hedge. We are more comfortable going with the spot. It is an attitude. It is not the spot is always correct. It is not the hedge is always correct. So the nimbleness, Balaji, what you talked about, is actually not there at all in the decision-making process because it has to go through a huge hierarchy for taking a decision there. Attitude determines the kind of supply chain. Attitude determines the kind of product you're making also. Take the case of product. I am very comfortable with this component in this way only. I don't care about how difficult it is for sourcing. How many times it happens? The designer comes with the product because it is more comfortable for him. Or his KPI is increasing the number of common components. So he is forced to take up certain components which are actually not so appropriate for the function. Quite possible. Attitude is triggered by your KPIs also. So attitude triggers the way you address external drivers, address design drivers, address operational drivers. But within these three, design driver is a primary driver which can handle external drivers and which triggers operational drivers. So spending a couple of minutes on design driver carefully. Look at this graph carefully, friends. This is applicable for any kind of design. Whether it is product design, process design, supply chain design, or your organization structure design. There are 4 stages for any design: concept formation, design and development, operationalizing, and fulfillment. Fulfillment is actually executing it and using it fully, where the customer derives benefit out of it. I used a color code: gray color, blue color, and orange color. Look at the color code carefully. This is gray. More than 90 to 95% of the cost is committed by the time the design is complete. More than 90 to 95% of the cost is committed by the time the design is complete. Whereas, look at the blue color of the life cycle cost I'm talking about. Life cycle cost of a product or a process or a supply chain or an organization structure is committed by the time the design is complete. But whereas, more than 95% of the life cycle cost is incurred after the design is complete. Look at very carefully. All our cost analysis focuses on the blue line, which is appropriate for protecting the core. But if you are looking at Quantum Leap, our cost analysis has to focus on the gray line. Are you getting the point? Because look at the orange line. Ability to control or reduce the cost is highest in the earlier stages and it diminishes significantly in the later stages. I'm not trying to say that you should not have a cost analysis when the cost is getting incurred. You better have it. If I don't have it, that 100 will become 120 also. But that 100 cannot be brought down below 100 without going to the design phase. In the case of service operations, I repeat, in the case of service organizations, the design modifications are more frequent as compared to a product organization. Therefore, design is more of an operational decision in the case of service organization as compared to a product organization. IT companies, design is part of operations. Whereas in product company, design is a separate entity by itself. That is why in an organizational context, if I am in a service operations, it is extremely important for me to have a design thinking mindset when I am in operations. Balaji talked about nimbleness. If I can create nimbleness at the design phase, a product organization also becomes a service organization in that sense. That is what we discussed in the last contract when we met, where I said, you remember this? I showed this. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Control C, Control V, what we discussed at that time. I was talking about 4 dimensions of a capacity addition: modular, discrete, flexible, and risk diffusing. Hey, remember this? Now, the point what Balaji made about nimbleness comes from my design being modular, discrete, flexible, and risk diffusing. These are the 4 dimensions which enable nimbleness or agility in my organization, and that comes at the design phase. How do I make my design process modular? How do I make my structure modular? How do I make my supply chain modular? How do I make my what you call supply chain risk diffusing? How do I make my organization modular, discrete, flexible, risk diffusing? This is definitely applicable across the what you call capacities. I have to bring in this modularity, discreteness, flexibility, and risk diffusion at the design phase itself. Balaji, I hope it addresses the point what you made.
Yes, very much.
Of course, it's not easy. If it is easy, everybody will do it. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, but if I am a decision maker, I need to necessarily focus on this. For my quantum leap, how do I create these 4 dimensions is very important. Yeah, any views, please open up because you are all decision makers. Please open up and you can speak and contribute on this. You can correlate to what you are doing also and then try to bring some examples.
See what happens in a cross-functional team, particularly on design and development stage. The design teams always feel that if you involve too many people, their creativity is lost. This is a mindset in some cases. Okay. Second, the confidentiality goes off. Okay. These 2 really pulling down the flexibility or even risk diffuser in the later stage. So the design is freezed. So we have to go only with that. Added to that, now sustainability is also coming into the picture. Okay. So which is going to be the future. Okay. We need green product. We need more sustainable based product, material or whatever we use, including the plastics. Okay. These are all coming in the later stage, not in the initial stage itself. There is a mindset still to be changed in across all the organization.
Sadiq, Gopal has thrown a what do you call gauntlet at you.
Yeah. So I was just looking at my own area where you are.
Please go ahead.
Agreed everywhere it is.
So actually,
please, Sadiq, go ahead.
Sir, in addition to that,
1 minute, Vetri, I will come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sadiq, please go
you
ahead.
have covered the entire spectrum, starting from product development, design development, sourcing, and manufacturing. So here, the biggest challenge what I see is everyone has got their own KPI to perform. Like, that is the I see that is a key driver for everything, because there is a KRA for everyone or KPI for everyone, and they set their lead times. They said this is what I will achieve the cost target, and that determines everything from the year beginning till end. See, that is how I see in my organization. It becomes more rigid. When you talk about
Gopal, he heads design for Titan Watches.
Great.
Yeah, please go ahead, Sadiq.
Yeah. So, say for example, when we spoke about supply chain or the structural design, when we opened up Sikkim for our last mile operation, suddenly my lead time has gone up by 1 week to 10 days. Because so far we've been working on, say, certain X lead time. X plus 10 days has become new product launch lead time. See, my customer will not wait for the 10 days of additional period. You understand? So these are all few challenges, in fact, in front of us, but everyone finally agreed to the KPI and start performing. And it is again in silos. We are all operationally efficient, but not delivering the excellence to the organization.
Beautiful.
Everybody has their own circle.
Yeah. So, but beautifully articulated in, very nicely put down all the drivers of cost, and finally we have to work on design drivers. I think that is the core to the entire cost challenges.
Yeah, Vetri, please open up.
Yeah, any product exports invites automatically that ROHS compliance, and then disposal cost adds relevant countries, like that it sets cost and other complications.
Yeah, true. Yes, Balaji.
Yeah, see, actually, this is again from a totally different sector. There is a service sector. The service sector typically has somebody called product manager. The product manager is the person who drives the entire translation of the solution or creation of the solution. Okay. And he is somebody with commercial understanding, and he is somebody who works like an entrepreneur for that particular product. So that kind of a mindset is very important to who oversees the entire process. The 4 aspects which you mentioned, the person who is overseeing it should be with the entrepreneurial mindset, and
Absolutely.
he will drive that whole thing to be done in that fashion. The KRAs, KPIs, everything will be structured around this basic aspect. So that is something which is probably missing in the manufacturing sector.
Yeah. Uma, your observation is valid. That is, modular, flexible, discrete structure can cost you more. That's what, if you remember that 4D quadrant we talked about last time, where we said that feasibility to add or reduce discrete modular capacities is extremely important. Uma.
Right. No, absolutely, sir. So the reason I'm asking is, if there is a scale that coming in, then there is a point at which we need to take a call. How much.
Absolutely. Sometimes scale is very important. I can't just like that leave it. And that's where we have to look at where that flexibility is required is also important. For example, take the case of something like a cement. There I'm not going to look at flexibility till my clinkerization.
Right.
I may need flexibility maybe in blending. Am I correct? Suppose similarly, if I'm talking about your oil and gas, I may not look at flexibility when I'm talking about what you call my naphtha cracking, but I may require flexibility at polymerization. Am I correct?
Right.
Is it not? So where you need flexibility is very important. So in fact, at the design phase, when I'm trying to create modular structure of design, I'm able to create a scale advantage for my supply chain. Am I correct? Uma?
Okay.
There the volume becomes critical.
Right. Absolutely. Because the reason I'm
please go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. So in Unilever, because the nature of the business itself, right? Like fast moving, the customers keep changing their mind and, the flavors or even any toothpaste, whichever brand you would take. So they went ahead and designed, okay, how do I actually inculcate or, flexibility, the design stage itself. They created a separate, like more like factory setup itself. A mini.
If you look at Zara as an example, Uma, they got essentially two supply chain embedded in one. As far as their fast moving or other regular products, they source it from Bangladesh. But whereas for fast fashion and P2P, if you look at, they focus more on Portugal and Spain, where they're vertically integrated and they have a lot of nimbleness in their operation. Makes sense?
Makes sense. Yeah, it does.
Definitely. Vedant, that diffusing risk need not automatically happen. Okay, you asked that question. Don't you think flexible automatically leads to what you call diffusion of risk? Not necessary. Because if you are going to invest everything into that, that is going to be risky. Okay, exactly. I will address it within 2 minutes. I will address it, Vedant.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Okay.
Let us go to the last two parts here. When I say talk about capacity, I'm talking about 4 capacities, friends. Here, there are 4 capacities where we need to look at modular, discrete, flexible, risk diffusing. But more specifically, I'm going to look at 4. The first capacity I'm talking about is, manpower. When it comes to manpower, how do we make my manpower flexible? Normally, I would have gone for a discussion mode. I'm not going for a discussion mode. There are 3 S's and 3 D's, in my opinion, for making the manpower flexible. The way to make manpower flexible is to make the man multi-skill. But how do I make him multi-skill? Why people refuse to learn a new skill? If you really think about very carefully, there are 3 reasons why people are unwilling to learn a new skill. Number 1, I call it the 3 S. First S is safety. I don't want to learn the skill. Why? This is very unsafe to work here. I don't want to work in this environment. This is very hot to work here, very risky. I may cut my hand. I don't want to work here. I have to climb up the ladder. I don't want to work in a windmill. Risky. My self-risk. No, I don't want to work on it. Why? Suppose if I spoil the machine, what to do? My boss is going to shout at me. I don't want to work on it. Or safety. I don't want to handle money transfer using mobile phone because I find it to be unsafe. I belong to that category. I don't want to learn it at all. It is unsafe. Or it is unsafe for the product given to me. I am working in a laundry. Somebody is giving a very costly Sherwani. Hey, don't give it to me for cleaning. It's very risky to handle it. So safety is one reason why I refuse to learn certain things. Think very carefully. Second, stress or strain. Sir, the workflow is absolutely unconventional here. Suddenly the work pressure is very high in this department. I don't want to work in this department. I don't want to work in this call center because I have to wake up late in the night and give a call to somebody in the US. Stress is very high. The boss is very bad. I don't want to work with this boss. Or the lighting in this factory is very poor. I don't want to work here because it's stressful to work here. It is like a dungeon. I don't want to work there. Stress. And the third is skill itself. I find it very difficult to learn this skill. It is very difficult to tie the shoelace is very difficult. I'm not going to learn how to wear the shoe. If you want to make somebody learn a skill, you have to do 3 Ds. First D is de-risk. Make the operation risk-free. I repeat, make the operation risk-free. I'm willing to learn the job. Number 2, de-stress. Make it easy to handle without any stress. I'm okay to learn it. De-skill. Remove the skill requirement from this job. I'm willing to learn this. For example, my father-in-law is about 86. He's permanently on WhatsApp and Facebook. How is it possible? Somebody taught him a training session he attended? No. The whole process of Facebook and WhatsApp is de-skill. There's no skill needed for operating that. So go back to your own organization. Look at your own people. If you want to make the people multi-skill, simple mantra, de-risk, de-stress, de-skill. Number 2, machine. To make the machine flexible, there are 3 possibilities. It should be a GPM, general purpose machine, ideally. definitely, Uma, that's going to be costlier. Am I correct? Okay. Yeah. Or if it is worth it, provided I'm able to use it for very well. Is it not? Second, right size tool. This is what I was talking about. Modular discrete capacity addition in the case of machine. And 3, changeover, which is faster. If I address these 3 factors, machine can be made flexible. The third is space. How do I make the space flexible? In warehouse, again 3 points, standard packs. If you make the pack standard, space can be placed better. Number 2, random storage. Please do a Google search, see what Amazon does, and see how Amazon handles space, how they use random spacing for random storage for keeping their items. Very interesting. If you go have a look at it, a lot of technologies available for doing this. Random storage can make the space flexible. And Control C, Control V, whatever I said for machine. The 4th is utilities. I'm giving the word utilities. It includes a whole gamut of things. It can be water connection, power connection, compressed air.
Repeat utilities.
Repeat. Yeah, utilities. Utilities are given within code. There are multiple dimensions, types of utilities. Water connection, power connection, compressed air, or your IT system, your bandwidth itself, which I'm suffering right now. Okay, or your capacity in terms of GBs or TBs in your cloud, whatever be it. Utilities is primarily that. Again, disruptive technologies. Most of the disruptive technologies, please think about very carefully. Most of the disruptive technologies are discrete, modular, flexible. I repeat, most of the discrete technologies are disruptive technologies are discrete, modular, flexible. Balaji is from power plant. Power plant has to have high capacity. Am I correct, Balaji?
In the context of?
Power plant generation. Power generation should be high capacity.
Yes, for efficiency of the equipment.
But what about solar power?
Solar power by design itself is you can't have any control on the output except for ensuring that there are no.
Correct. But that technology you can put up what you call 1 kilowatt also. Am I correct?
Yeah, you can put lesser kilowatt. Ultimately, there is no challenge in that. But at the end of the day, the procurement cost, no, that also you need to consider.
See, there's one, but it is a disruptive technology essentially. Correct, Balaji?
Yes, but right now I would not say it is a disruptive technology. The reason is
right now not. It is moving towards.
Yeah,
it's moving.
Storage is the biggest cause of problem in.
Beautiful. Therefore, storage also is another disruptive technology which has to catch up with that solar power. So imagine a situation. Storage technology also improves. My generation technology also improves. Both becomes discrete, modular, flexible, diffused risk. Am I correct?
Yes.
That's the point I'm making. Disruptive technologies enable utilities to be flexible. Aggregation. Uma, aggregation is primarily you are creating scale in utilities. Am I correct? Cloud is a classic example. 3PL is a classic. Aggregators are classic example for making utilities use for users. It becomes discrete, modular, flexible. But there is somebody at the back end who is creating an aggregation. Am I correct? And of course, Control C, Control V machine, whatever I said about machine. So typically, if you look at it carefully, capacities, when I talk about, there are 4 capacities where I need to focus on: machine, man, space, and utilities. How do I make it discrete, modular, flexible, diffused risk can enable me to move towards quantum leap. Raghavendra, what I meant by Control C, Control V machine means I've given 3 points under machine: general purpose machine, right size tool, and changeover. Am I correct? Raghavendra?
Yes, sir.
These 3 are applicable for space also, for utilities also. Right size tool, for example. Yeah, right size tool is a kind of what kind of ale I'm going to use.
Okay.
That's the meaning of right. The final part, I'll take a maximum 5 minutes and then I will stop bothering you. Okay. The last part is primarily what I call as, there are 9 impact areas of profitability. Whenever you are looking at any kind of an initiative, look at 9 parameters which impact profitability. Ultimately, what is this profitability? Is ROCE I'm talking about. ROCE is sales minus cost divided by investment. Am I correct? Hey, am I correct?
Correct.
Simple. This is what you discussed also in that session. Now, when I look at this for 3 parameters, for each of these 3, there are 3 aspects. When it comes to cost, any action you take will have an impact on variable cost per unit. If you are in design, you have the biggest control over variable cost. I repeat, if you are in design, you have the biggest control over variable cost because you are the people who are actually triggering your material cost. If you are in sourcing, you got a biggest impact on variable cost. If you are in process design, you have a biggest impact on variable cost in terms of energy consumption. If you are in supply chain design, you got a very big impact on variable cost in terms of transportation cost. So variable cost per unit is the first major impact area when it comes to profitability impact. Second is total fixed cost. Friends, I'm talking about total fixed cost, not per unit fixed cost. Total fixed cost. So fixed cost and variable cost, how is it different? It's a very simple difference. Variable cost is incurred for using a resource. I repeat, variable cost is incurred for using a resource. Therefore, by controlling per unit basis, you can control variable cost. Whereas fixed cost is incurred for having a resource. So by taking the decision on whether I should have the resource or not have the resource, you're going to control the fixed cost. So the capacity addition, what I talked about in manpower capacity addition, is a critical case of fixed cost capacity. Your decision to add a manpower is a fixed cost addition. Your decision to add space is a fixed cost addition. Your decision to add utilities is fixed cost addition. Your decision to add equipment is a fixed asset addition. Coming to investment, there are 2. One is fixed asset. Second is working capital. Of the working capital, the most critical is WIP, work in progress. Anybody from service operations, is work in progress applicable for services?
It will be depending upon your contract for billing. If you're billing on particular milestones, then you will have work in progress.
Okay, Balaji, have you gone for a home loan?
Yes.
Okay, how long it took for you to get the loan?
No, it's quite some time back.
Some time back, but about 15 days, 20 days?
Yeah, depends.
Okay.
Depends upon the documentation you have.
Anyway, assuming documentation, all those stuff. But you are a decent case. I know you very well. You are a very decent case. Am I correct?
Yes.
Practically speaking, the bank would have spent not more than 2 hours to check your papers. Am I correct?
Correct.
Why the hell they took 15 days?
Definitely, it's a question of their internal.
That is the work in progress.
Yeah.
WIP is neither work in progress nor work in process. WIP is. Please look at WIP as work is pending.
You have to
In
repeat
any
it.
organization,
You have
there is
to
You have to
WIP.
repeat it.
I repeat again. WIP is neither work in progress nor work in process. I repeat, WIP is neither work in progress nor work in process. WIP is work is pending. It is applicable across organization, across domains. You take the case of design. Design as a process has a huge WIP. Am I correct, Sadiq?
Yes.
The time you conceive a design, the kind of time it goes to market, look at the time gap. Developing a vendor, there is a huge WIP. Developing a IT project, huge WIP. WIP is a killer. Longer the WIP cycle time, longer is your planning horizon. Longer your WIP cycle time, least nimble you are. The word Balaji used, least nimble you are. Therefore, WIP is nothing to do with only manufacturing. In fact, WIP is the biggest killer in any organization, in any operation. Please remember that carefully. Sales, there are three parameters: sales volume, sales price. Sales volume and sales price, if you are adding a cost for increasing a value proposition for a product, you may not be in a position to raise the price, but you may be in a position to raise the sales volume, then it is worth it. So your value recognition by the customer happens in two ways, either by adding the sales volume or by adding the sales price, accepting the sales price. The third factor of sales is sales mix. Hey, but I said 9 parameters, right? There are only 7 here. What are the other 2? What are the other 2? The other 2 are release of fixed cost capacity and release of fixed asset capacity. Many of the decisions you take actually release capacity. Fixed cost capacity means manpower, hired space, hired equipment, and utilities. Fixed asset capacity is own equipment, own space. So friends, any action you take has got an impact on 9 of these parameters. How do you develop a financial perspective or financial mindset? Is by looking at decision under the dimensions of 9 dimensions. The 9 dimensions, if you remember carefully, I started from cost, and I'm going to start from investment. The first decision you take is investment decision. That is where you commit yourself. The second decision you take is your cost decision. And then the product or service goes to the market. So any action has got a financial reaction, and the financial reaction has got 9 dimensions. If you want to manage this financial dimension effectively, it is important to realize how your decision impacts these 9 parameters. It's a simple framework. Are you getting the point? So by addressing these 9 parameters, the decision making becomes more specific. Decision making is actually becoming informed decision making, and you live happily ever after. I think this is what I want to share with you. Any questions? Feel free to open up. Maybe another 5 minutes. We can. I can take a few questions, then we can wind up. Any questions? Maybe you can open up your cameras also, that it becomes easier to see your faces, in case it is possible.
Just to add one point, as far as the
Balaji.
Variable cost, when you talked about transportation and inventory, I can share one important piece of information. One of the automobile companies had a contract for logistics, including the management of their inventories, because it is like just in time most of the time. On the logistic cost was on per car manufactured.
Okay.
So, okay. I don't know whether this is. I've seen that at least in a few other companies, it's not on a per car basis. Typically on they are trying to manage this aspect of logistics and inventory costs by their own resources, but here they have outsourced it. They are willing to pay for a per car basis.
Okay. See, any electrical engineer here? Any electrical engineer? Anybody? Definitely many engineers are here, right? Okay. Once my friend told me, his name is Shankar, he told me, this electrical engineer, he said, Nemukalapa, don't slap me, slap me, okay? Once my friend told me, Hari, this electrical engineering is very simple. How simple it is? Anything is closed, open it. Anything is open, close it. Only thing you should know what to open, what to close, when to open, when to close, how to open, how to close. Balaji, cost reduction also is very simple. Convert fixed into variable cost and variable cost into fixed cost. Only thing you should know when to convert, how to convert. Put it very simply. There are, again, I always believe I am comfortable with 3. Sadiq knows why I am talking about 3 always, right? There are 3 aspects you have to look at when you are converting fixed into variable or variable into fixed. If the volume handle or the frequency of that flow or the productivity, if any one of this is high, fixed cost is cheaper. If volume handle frequency is high or productivity is high, fixed cost is cheaper. So if you want to make fixed cost cheaper, you should ensure that the fixed cost is capable of handling variety. Therefore, flexibility. Makes sense now? In operations, you always talk about PQ, CD, SM. Please add one more letter to that, F for flexibility. PQ, CD, SM, F. That F makes your process productive also. The F makes your process, definitely you can convert the fixed cost capacity. Fixed cost is cheaper. Variable cost is costly. Make sense? So the example, Balaji, what you said, maybe the volume or frequency or productivity may be a reason, but there is another reason which is primarily business context. Business context is, if I am not sure about getting a capacity, I will prefer to go for a fixed cost capacity. If I'm easy to get it, I will go for variable. Yeah, Balaji, please.
Sorry, one thought process which is slightly different. If you look at the way you are saying these are three aspects where fixed cost can be effective. But if you look at it from the service organization which is delivering this, if they have the high what you can say capacity, their cost is going to be lower than your capacity, what you are going to have. Just for example, shared services. The volume, the action shares and the other shared services handle is so huge, their capacity cost is very much going to be lesser than any individual organization.
Naturally, because the volume is high, fixed cost is cheaper for them. And you, as a consumer, you can buy that particular capacity as on a variable cost basis.
Correct. That is basically the.
That's precisely the point. That's precisely the point.
And that will continue for a period, small period, and once again it will fine-tuned again. What happens?
Exactly.
You know, what Balaji is referring is, for example, if one truck handling or one car handling, they will have 8 cars in one truck. Okay. Initially started with multiple cars. Now they are taking the reverse logistics also into account. All these are captured by the manufacturer. When they come for the next negotiation, they will say you are already doing this, cut down further. So this is, it's a chain actually. It keep on improving.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, good observation.
Okay. Thanks.
Hari sir, I just have one perspective.
Yeah, please, Sadiq.
Whenever I go for a product development, cost factor is the last factor I apply. I'll just give you a perspective. So we use a term called 3C. The first C is the capability. So generally, I work on make or source decision. Okay, either I make it in-house or make it in India or source it from anywhere in the world. That's the key decision which we take. And the capability of making any differentiating product will be the first C. See, that's the first filter we put. And then the second C is the capacity. I look at the capacity, whether the moment I have a capability to produce anywhere between in-house or within India or even in abroad, the second C is the capacity, which is the capacity which is flexible to deliver within the required time. That means the time to market is the next key element. Their capacity plays the very biggest element. And the last C would be the cost. I look at whether I'll be able to deliver within the target cost, or still I go with a compromised cost wherein I will make a time to market so that I make the turnaround of the kind of the clock speed of the product launch will be much faster than holding the cost as the key factor. So
beautiful, beautiful.
So these are the few elements that just thought will be nice perspective to work on, because I work on dimensions.
Sadiq, I will make it the 4 C's now.
Okay.
2 of your C's I'll combine to 1 C.
Right.
The first C is compliance, which is governance. It should be legally tenable. It should be within the value system of an organization. First C is compliance. Hygiene. But Sadiq, sometimes we miss out on the hygiene factor.
Yeah.
We miss out on the hygiene factor. Otherwise, why should you call your sourcing as a responsible sourcing department? You want to remind yourself, right? So first C is compliance. Second C is customer, which is a strategic filter. is it going to be relevant for the customer or not? That's the third C. I'm combining your capacity and capability into one C, which is primarily, I will call it as a capability and capacity. The third C, which is technical filter. And the fourth one, as you rightly said, is the cost or financial filter. So governance, strategic, technical, financial. And financial is the last filter. The first three filters are mandatory.
Yeah.
Financial filter is an optional filter in the short run, but mandatory in the longer run.
Very true.
So that's why it should come as the last filter, not the first filter.
Perfect.
Makes sense?
We should be mindful about it, where we are
Exactly.
taking this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for opening up and coming in late night. Yeah. Okay.
It was quite interesting session, Hari. I think everyone would have enjoyed your session on this, costing part.
Okay. Well, just couple of comments. In fact, I think just let us look at it. Lavanya remind of scarcity definition of economics by Lionel Robinson. You had spoken about capacity. Changes over time. Correct. Data storage was an issue, but not after the advent of cloud. Exactly. You are able to create a higher capacity in the backend, Lavanya. That's the advantage.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we'll catch up in the next contact, which
Sir,
is going to be on people.
clarity.
Yes, Vetrivel. Yes, Vetrivel. Please go ahead.
You mentioned drivers of cost, macro dimension, external drivers and design drivers and operation drivers. Is there any fourth one? Is there?
Attitude.
Only three.
Attitude. Attitude is overriding other three also.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Okay. In fact, attitude is the other one, which is actually the bigger one of the four.
Okay.
But talked about cost culture, cost consciousness, they all come in there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Lavanya.
The Indian Patents Act was amended, and I believe process patents replaced product patents in 2005. So, is it that the relative importance of product vis-a-vis process more of an industry specific and a temporal issue?
Frankly, I cannot answer because I'm not an expert in patent. Therefore, I don't want to venture and answer that question, frankly. Anybody else can answer that?
We have, I have little knowledge on that because we experienced something on this product as well as the process patent. Okay, basically product patent can be broken by alternative process bringing in and showing that this is coming out of different process. But once process is patent and product is both are patented, difficult to break by anybody because it covers both. Even with that, there is a possibility of bringing a final product slightly different. On edge differentiation they call it, with a different process. Okay, so the patent has no big value and meaning unless it is having a very strong notation like medicine or some clear high value items. Otherwise it is broken and it is taken for right. And Indian patents are very weak. We had a bad experience in patent.
Okay.
This one little I have knowledge.
Thank you.
Just one thing.
Yeah, Balaji.
Process patents are primarily used by our pharma companies.
Yes.
So that is basically they dilute the product patents of the developed nations by going in for a process
different
patents,
process. Yes.
Reduce the cost by coming up with a different process to create the same ultimate output. Okay. So that is how we have been able to manage our healthcare system. So in the context of pharma, they thrive on process patents in India.
Okay. Thanks, Balaji. Thanks, Gopal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.